a few more days of spoilers left. Invasion of Belanon is 3 mana for a 5 counter siege battle. When it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. 3 mana for a 2/2 with vigilance isn't anything to write home about, and 5 counters, that's a lot, but I love elephant people, so let's see what the back does. Belanon War Anthem is an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1. The card's alright, I suppose, but the reason we're talking about this card is Belanon. It's a plane we don't know a lot about. All we have are a few plane chase planes to work with, Windriddle Palaces and Edge of Malakal, plus we know there are Lockstone and Rocks there. But other than that, we don't know much. It's neat to see some more unknown planes represented in these battle cards, but I'd love to see a visit to Belanon. I'd love me some Loxodon so mush. Phyrexian Awakening is 2 of anything and 1 white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 4. Wow, that's a big incubator token right there. Phyrexians you control have vigilance. I'm starting to view incubate as an underrated mechanic. Essentially, this is 5 mana for a 4/4 that blankets your Phyrexians with vigilance. I think that's legitimately powerful in a limited format where you want to be attacking battles and also not leaving yourself open to the crackback. I haven't really figured out how great battles are going to be in limited just yet, as they do require a relatively massive investment to transform most times, but Phyrexian Awakening is a card that would help make that job slightly easier. It isn't my favorite turn 3 play, but it's definitely a solid turn 5 one in a Phyrexian heavy deck. Phyrexian Censor is 2 of anything and 1 white for a 3/3 Phyrexian Wizard. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-Phyrexian spell each turn. Non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. Phyrexian Hate Bear, I love it. I don't know how you feel about this card, but I think it might be secretly broken. Cards that limit spell casting have been powerful throughout Magic's history, and a number of them that exist are amazing right now. Archon of Emeria and Aethersworn Canonist are the first that come to mind, but as a 3/3 for 3 with such an oppressive ability, I get the feeling this is slightly pushed. Think about how many powerful decks in basically all formats need to cast more than 1 spell a turn to be useful. This is a solid uncommon right here. Corruption of Tawashi is 4 of anything and 1 blue for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 4. Whenever a permanent you control transforms or a permanent enters the battlefield under your control transformed, you may draw a card. Do this only once each turn. So for 7 mana, you get a 4/4 that draws you a card. What's especially interesting about this card is the do this only once each turn isn't actually that big of a deal, because you can transform on your opponent's turn, letting you take full advantage of the enchantment. Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly narrow, and the only way to get full value out of this would be to include it in a dedicated theme deck about transforming. But the nice thing is that transforming is a pretty wide net. It doesn't just apply to Phyrexian Incubator tokens. You've got the cool sagas from Kamigawa like Jugen Defends the Temple and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, cards from Ixalan and Innistrad Origins like Primal Amulet, literally any werewolf, Jace Prodigy. My point is that the corruption can spread much further than Incubator tokens, and it could find a home in any transform-related deck in Commander. Zephyr Singer is 2 of anything and 2 blue for a 3/4 Siren Pirate with Convoke, Flying, and Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, put a flying counter on each creature that convoked it. Holy nutter butter, Batman, this card is limited gold. Probably one of the best bombs in the game in draft. Wow, being able to untap with not only a solid chunker in the sky that has Vigilance, but all your convoked creatures get flying as well. Flying is a game-winning keyword in limited, and being able to give it to any creatures of your choice, yeah, that ends games. And while yes, you have to tap them to cast the Singer, at least you'll have a 4 toughness creature to block some damage on the crackback. Really impressive card, and because it's a pirate, it's another nice addition to Admiral Beckett Brass's Commander army. Imagine giving all of them flying, that's pretty savage. I love this card. Bloated Processor is 2 of anything and 1 black for a 3/2 Phyrexian. You can sacrifice another Phyrexian to put a +1/+1 counter on the processor. When it dies, incubate X, where X is its power. This card is so strong. Finally, we get another sacrifice outlet that doesn't come with nonsense restrictions like only once per turn or sorcery speed. Sure, the limitation here is that the creatures have to be Phyrexian, but like we have Mites and Incubator tokens and also Conspiracy and Maskwood Nexus and Arcane Adaptation to turn everything into Phyrexians, which is hilarious. What makes this card unique is that it's a sacrifice outlet, but it is also sacrifice fodder itself, dying and creating a massive incubator token to take its place. It would be neat to see some kind of standard playable Phyrexian sacrifice deck, but if that is impossible, there are plenty of Mites and incubator tokens now to create a Phyrexian Aristocrats deck in Commander. There could be lots of cool commanders for that. Nevinyrral has the color synergy we want, that'd be hilarious. Let me know if a Phyrexian Aristocrat deck is something you'd be interested in seeing. Invasion of Ulgrotha is 4 of anything and 1 black for a 5 counter siege battle. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any other target and you gain 3 life. It says any other target, so it can't damage itself. Smart wording there. Front side is a really expensive lightning helix, and you need to deal a whopping 5 damage to the battle to flip it. When you do defeat it, it becomes Grandmother Ravi Senger, a 3/3 legendary creature human wizard with flying. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Granny and you gain 1 life. Grandma Senger is back. I wish she had her own card, but I'll take what I can get. For any of you who are confused, Granny is a human wizard who's actually a planeswalker who forgot how to planeswalk after she became demented. I do enjoy a good apocalypse. That does sound just like her. It's too bad the card is very expensive and hard to flip. I wanted to make a Granny commander deck, gosh darn it. Lithomantic Barrage is 1 red for a sorcery that can't be countered. It deals 1 damage to target creature or planeswalker. It deals 5 damage instead if that target is white and or blue. Wow, this card is probably the single best sideboard card that red has access to in standard right now. There's just nothing that blue or white can do about this, at least not efficiently. This is basically a wider fry. It loses instant speed, becomes cheaper, and you can target non-white and blue creatures. It's really hard to convince people not to play a card that can kill Teferi or Narset Parter Reveals for a single mana. It also knocks out Ledger Shredder, Resto Angel, on the 1 damage against a non-white and blue, kills Dark Confidant. That part isn't ideal, of course, but it's still utility that something like Fry doesn't have. It's an amazing sideboard card, top notch. Glistening Dawn is 2 of anything and 2 green for a sorcery. Incubate X twice, where X is the number of lands you control. Wow, this card is a huge win in Limited. Remember how we're treating Incubate now. Add 2 mana to the mana cost. So in this instance, think about it this way. 6 mana for a 6/6 and another 6/6 basically whenever you want it. It is in Crush of Worms, but it's pretty lean in comparison, and at worst, you can cast it for 4 mana, giving yourself 2 eventual 4/4s. The value on this card is really, really high, and it plays well at basically any point in the game. Limited Bomb for sure, first pickable, no questions asked. Imagine late game having 8 mana for this, get 2 8/8s immediately, absurd, totally nuts. Glistening Dawn, this is impressive. Rough Translation, Herbology Instructor is 1 of anything and 1 green for a 1/3 Treefolk Druid. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. You can also pay 6 of anything and 1 black Phyrexian mana and activate only as a sorcery to transform it into Ailment Invoker, a 3/3 Phyrexian Treefolk. When this creature transforms, target creature an opponent controls gets -0/-X until end of turn, where X is that creature's power. Very interesting card. A 2 mana 1/3 obviously isn't the most exciting stat line in the world, but 3 life isn't terrible, and it bricks early drops pretty well, eventually turning into a 3/3 and coming with a removal spell that basically scales into the late game. I think this is a solid limited card and it'll probably see play, especially if the format is as slow as I think it might be. Great payoff late game for a mostly reasonably costed card. Invasion of Asgol is 1 black and 1 red for a 4 counter siege battle. When it enters the battlefield, target player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker and loses 1 life. Honestly, one of the better invasions as far as I'm concerned. Forcing a sacrifice is a way to get around hexproof and indestructibility, and 4 isn't the highest defense counter total we've seen. When it is defeated, it transforms into Ashen Reaper, a 2/1 zombie elemental with menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on Ashen Reaper if a permanent was put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn. The card seems neat, but I'm really only interested in the plane itself. Between this card and Lair of the Ashen Idol plane from Plane Chase, this entire plane seems exactly like hell. Just a plane of fire and volcanoes and smoke and destruction. I want to go there so badly. This place looks awesome. It's about time we had a Flamekin, Ashen, Elemental type set. Let's go to Asgol, am I right? And stay tuned here for more March of the Machine spoilers. We have all of them. Thanks for watching.